Hello Aries, and welcome to your new moon lunar insight video for the lunar cycle, which begins with the new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Cancer on the 12th, 13th of July and culminates with the dark moon Lion's Gate energies as we head up to the third and final eclipse of this season, which will be a Leo new moon solar eclipse on the 11th of August. So we are heading into the most transformational months of the year now. It's eclipse season. We have multiple retrogrades, including your ruler Mars. So this summer or winter, if you're in the southern hemisphere, invites you to release all that is no longer serving and open yourself to transformation on a deep soul level. So in this video, Aries, I'm going to talk you through how the astrological energies are going to personally affect you during this period. So I hope this serves you and you find it useful going through this month, understanding what's happening, because eclipses can be times of rapid change and acceleration. So new things can rapidly come into our life, but old things will fall away quite quickly, and there could be a bit of a sense of frustration in the air for yourself, in particular Aries, with Mars, your ruling sign, going retrograde. It may be very hard to see the future. It's a time of trust and surrendering and letting go of control. So we're going to begin this month, as I said, with a partial solar eclipse, new moon, in the sign of Cancer, which will be in your 4th house. Now this eclipse is a partial eclipse, so it's like a supercharged new moon. It's not as intense as the other eclipses that will come in this cycle, but it can still create significant change and transformation for you, and also gives you a foreshadowing of the coming eclipse cycle that will begin when the node shift signs later this year. So this, for all of us, this eclipse is giving us a taste of what is to come. And this eclipse will fall in your 4th house, the womb space, the foundational house of the birth chart, and it will oppose Pluto, the Lord of transformation, in your 10th house, which is one of the much more visible spaces of the birth chart. It's the house that is often associated with career and life's purpose. And you also have Saturn there at the moment, Aries, so we know that you at this time are on this journey of building your dreams, building your visions, building your goals, especially with Mars retrograding through your 11th house of future vision as well. So this eclipse can really highlight this axis for you, this polarity between the inner world and the physical home space, the sacred space where you reside, and your career, the work you're doing in the outer world. So you may find that there is some rebalancing that needs to happen. Perhaps with Saturn in that 10th house, you've been giving all of your time and energy to your purpose. All of your focus has been going outward as you're creating your vision for the future, and you may have been neglecting your inner self, your inner sanctuary, your inner temple, or neglecting your emotional connections with others, like your family, your friends, those people who offer sustenance to your soul. So this may be a time of really looking at the balance of inner and outer, of giving and receiving. This is also the house of the Great Mother, the house of our ancestral lineage, our genetic karma. So this can be a time when a lot of old stuff can rise up from the past, particularly associated to the karmic patterns and ties that run through our families. This can be a time of really looking at your inner child and how safe and nurtured it feels. With the moon in opposition to Pluto, who can really create an energy or an essence of fear within us when we work with him, because he calls you to look at the shadow, he calls you into the dark spaces of the psyche. So we can really, with this energy, look at themes of how secure we felt as a child and how secure we make ourselves feel in the now. So this new moon solar eclipse can act a little bit like a catalyst, revealing to us, which of the foundations of our life that we're building on are solid and which need to be, reworked, which may need a little bit more care and attention, and just what we need to do to make ourselves feel safer, to make ourselves feel held like we would have wished that our parents did. If you grew up in a dysfunctional family, or you didn't receive the support and nourishment that you craved as a child or adolescent, this can be a time of learning how to re-parent yourself, how to, give yourself that sustenance that you are longing for. So this can be a really intense time, and these are core sections, core houses of the birth chart. So there can be a lot of change that is happening, a lot of instability that will call you to really root and ground yourself. And this would be a really good time for you, Aries, especially with Venus currently transiting your 6th house, to develop a daily routine, a daily spiritual practice, to think about changing your diet and your daily habits so they are supportive of you, so that you are a strong vessel for these energies to move through, so you won't be so rocked and destabilized as the months unfold and the big changes start to happen. So around this time, I talked about this in the previous video, but I just want to mention it a little bit again here, because around the time of the new moon, Jupiter is going to be stationing direct in your 8th house, and he's going to be still in a trine with Neptune in the 12th house. And as the lunar goddess comes up to reach the eclipse point, she's also going to trine Jupiter, creating a beautiful water trine energy. So this can be a deeply psychologically and emotionally healing time for you as well, Aries. This, with Jupiter at his strongest, this can be a time of you really starting to see the culmination of the work you've been doing as he transits through your 8th house of deep soul intimacy, of inner and outer union, of resources, of psychological healing. So if you have been since March, when he stationed direct, or even since he entered your 8th house in October 2017, if you have been really diving deep into that journey, really doing the shadow mining work, clearing out all of your fears around being vulnerable, around accepting love, accepting abundance, accepting support, you've really been clearing up your inner garden, your inner temple. This is a time where you may start to see the beginnings of a new start, a fresh chapter in this area of your life. And Jupiter's still going to be in Scorpio until later this year, until November. But when he is moving direct, we're much more able to flow with his lessons. It's like an unwinding. So all of the inner tension that has been culminating around these issues can now start to flow, and you can really start to see perhaps a greater financial flow, you know, a deeper connection in your intimate bonds. You know, perhaps if you're a single Aries, particularly as the planets start to gather in your 5th house later in the month, you may find yourself attracting a partner that you can be yourself with, that you can be vulnerable and intimate with. So this beautiful water trine energy is flowing around the time of this moon as well. And we also have a grand earth trine forming as the new moon eclipse happens as well. And this is between Venus in Virgo in your 6th house, Saturn in your 10th house, and Uranus in your 2nd house. So these houses are the houses of the birth chart that are connected with tangible resources, connected with career, purpose, daily structures, big dreams, and financial success and prosperity. So during this time, a sacred Merkaba, a portal of potential, also appears in the sky. So if we are willing to do Pluto, if we are willing to let go of what is no longer evolving our soul, even though we thought that it was keeping us safe, quite often it's those things that we cling on to for security that actually keep us stagnant. So if we can be willing to let go, we can step through this gateway and we can start to really receive some of the blessings that we have been working towards over the past 6 and 4 month periods. So this can be a really exciting new moon eclipse, beginning to eclipse season, if we allow that, Aries. So the lunar month opens in this, you know, deeply healing and transformative way, and shortly after, the sun is going to move into the sign of Leo, his home sign, a fellow fire sign. So this is a comfortable energy for you. He's going to join Mercury, who's already in your 5th house. So this is a re-emergence for you, Aries. Well, the sun was in Cancer and the moon was in Cancer, trining all of those planets in the water houses of your chart. You may have felt the need to really be internal, to be going within, to do that deep soul diving, even though, particularly here in the Northern Hemisphere, we've been having the hottest summer that we have had in a very long time, but still you may have felt the need to just be in your inner sanctuary. So as the sun moves into Leo, the energy becomes much more expressive, it becomes much more expansive. You start to feel yourself opening up to receiving some joy in your life again. You start to feel the need to be playful, to be creative, to be spontaneous. You know, new ideas and new expressions may start to flow through you, particularly as the Lionsgate energy opens in this section of your birth chart. So the 5th house, as I said, is also about romance. It's about love and sexuality and sensuality in a slightly different way to the 8th house where Jupiter is. But both of these houses are very active for you during this lunar cycle, Aries. So it's a good time to open yourself to love, you know, to really allow yourself to surrender and be open to opportunities, be open to meeting people, be open to creating those heart bonds and connections. The energies start to get a little bit stickier from this point on as Mercury stations retrograde in this house on the 26th of June, so shortly after the sun enters this space of your birth chart. And this can be a very intense time for all of us because we now have 6 planets retrograde and we are in the eclipse tunnel, you know, we're in the eclipse wormhole where everything can feel a little bit disorientating, you know, things are shifting, the ground is shaking under our feet. So this can really be a moment of allowing yourself to trust, to know that you are changing, you are moving towards your goals and visions, even though it might not be at the fast pace that you like, Aries. You are a sign that is impulsive and can oftentimes seek instant gratification. So this eclipse season, retrograde period, is a big lesson for you in learning how to think before you act, learning how to trust the unfolding process rather than trying to get from A to B in supersonic speed. So Mercury is going to retrograde in the 5th house of your birth chart, and he's going to be creating squares to Jupiter in your 8th. So this can be a time where there may be some more fears coming up around the way that you express yourself in your intimate relationships, in your connections with others. This can be, you know, perhaps that fear of vulnerability rearing its head as we move into this section of the month. And you know, this can also be a time where you have to rethink your belief patterns around your creative projects, around abundance, around romance, around how much joy and prosperity you allow yourself to really experience and feel in your life, Aries. This can be a time of also reworking projects that are already in place. Perhaps Mercury can show you a better way of expressing your talents and gifts into the world. Perhaps Mercury can teach you a new way of expressing your heart-centered creativity. And this can be a time of, you know, if the things that you're offering the world, if the connections that you have aren't lighting your soul up, then maybe it's time to cut the cords and let them go. Particularly as the lunar eclipse is coming up conjunct your ruler Mars just the day after Mercury stations retrograde, the 27th of June. And this is the big eclipse of the season. This is the biggest lunar eclipse we've had in a very long time. People are already calling it the blood moon eclipse, which is beautiful since it's conjunct Mars, the red planet. And both the full moon and Mars, the sacred warrior, are going to be conjunct the south node, which is that energy that calls us to really release the past, to really let go of all of those things, not just from this lifetime, but from previous lifetimes that we have been holding on to. And Aquarius is the great liberator. So this is a time of truly letting go of what stifles our soul. This eclipse, although it's going to be focused in your 11th house, because it's conjunct your ruler Mars, Aries, you may find that there are many things from the past, you know, physically, mentally and emotionally and psychically, that are coming up to be let go of. The 11th house always makes me think of the 1111 awakening code, you know, that synchronistic number sequence we see when we know that we are moving forward on the right path. You know, it's that kind of signal from the universe that says, okay, you know, you are exactly where you need to be. So this house can rule over our dreams, our visions, our individual purpose, as well as our friendships and connections. You can think of this house as the web that connects you electronically if you use a lot of social media and do a lot of online stuff, or energetically to the people in your soul tribe. So these areas come under particular focus with this really potent, powerful Martian lunation. So perhaps, Aries, there are some old visions, some old ideas, some old beliefs and ways of doing things in relation to your goals and dreams for your future that need to be let go of. This is really a time of surrendering and just letting go of whatever the universe, the cosmos, wants you to dissolve, so that a new vision can emerge. Perhaps things aren't flowing the way that we thought they were, and changes need to be made. And this can really highlight friendships as well, particularly as Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, is sat close to the eclipse. She's about to come into your 11th house too. That will be exact on the 7th of August. But this can be a time where there can be disharmony in friendships. There can be connections that we've outgrown. And this is a good time for allowing those to gracefully fall away with love, with expression of authentic truth. Especially, it's those dreams and visions and connections that don't allow us to do Leo, that don't allow us to be exactly who we are, that don't allow us that freedom for authentic expression. So if you have connections or visions that are not aligned with who you really, really wish to become, because this is a big couple of years for you, Aries, of building your purpose. And if you are holding on to connections that don't serve that, then this eclipse can eclipse them away, can really reveal to you what does need to truly and deeply be released for the final time. The eclipse is going to square Uranus in your second house. So we talked about this house earlier, and this house is very much connected with values, resources, abundance. It's the Taurus house, and the message of the second house is, am I receiving adequate time and compensation for the energy that I am expending in this situation? Am I valuing my gifts? Am I valuing what I am offering out to the rest of the world? And also, this is a house that's connected with self-love. So you are in the midst of a self-love revolution with this transit, Aries, as well. So those areas of your life where you are undervaluing yourself, where you are giving away, where you are leaking energy and not honouring the gifts that you have been given, these areas can also come up for review. So we can see a little bit of tension here between dreams and finances. So perhaps, there are some old financial beliefs, perhaps they're inherited, perhaps they're karmic, perhaps, you grew up in a family where there was a lot of negative talk around money and abundance that needs to be cleared away during this eclipse cycle. This can manifest on multiple levels for you, Aries, and it's a real journey for you with Mars retrograde of reworking what lights that inner fire, because you are one of the most fiery, passionate signs of the zodiac. So for you, during this period, it's a time of really reassessing what does and who does truly ignite that inner spark, what gets your kundalini fired up, what raises your shakti. And if you're doing things that don't fill you with fire, that don't awaken your inner warrior, that don't feel like they are going to ignite your purpose, you know, that don't feel like they're going to give fuel to your fire, then it's time to let them go. So that is the big event really of the month, Aries. So as we head into August, you know, we're still in the eclipse wormhole. We haven't kind of wiggled out of it yet. So things may still feel quite uncertain, quite unclear. This can be a period of needing to integrate all of the upgrades that have come through that Aquarian eclipse, all of the insights and all of the visions and all of the things that you know need to change. So on the 6th of August, Venus moves into Libra, which is your 7th house. So this is another house, Aries, connected with partnership, connected with harmony, connected with union, connected with others. So we can see that there's a really big theme for you this month around how you relate to other people, how open your heart is, you know, how willing you are to use your relationships as a crucible for transformation. So Venus moving into this space again adds that element of, you know, extra attractiveness, extra magnetism. So this again is a period where you can really feel the need to be out, to be meeting people. If you are already in a partnership, Venus in Libra can make things, you know, for her journey there for the next 4 weeks, can make things feel smoother, feel more heart-centered, feel more, you know, beautiful. You might feel like you really want to, you know, rekindle the spark in your relationship during this period. So shortly after Venus moves into Libra, Uranus, whom we have discussed being in your 2nd house, slows down and he's going to station retrograde in Taurus. And this is quite a significant shift for you because as Uranus moves back, he's going to cross back over the Taurus-Aries cusp, and he is going to come back into your sign for a few months. I think from the 7th of November this year to the 7th of March 2019, we have more Uranian energy. So it's almost like this great cosmic storm god, you know, this huge liberating force. He leaves Taurus where he's just kind of been getting settled in, and he heads back into Aries. It's almost like, oh, I forgot something. And he can awaken you to lost truths. He can, you know, he just kind of jumps back in and he says, oh, you know, I forgot to tell you to liberate yourself from this situation. I forgot to tell you to dig deeper for your authentic truth in this area of your life. So it's a really interesting transition, which we'll talk a little bit more about as it actually happens. But during this period, when your Uranus is stationing, there can be extra focus on those 2nd house energies of resources, of abundance. You will start to clearly see the changes that need to be made as this transit unfolds for the next 7 years. And Uranus stations just as the Lion's Gate opens, so 8/8, a very profound date. Every year at this time, the spiritual sun Sirius and our sun, our soul star, are rising together on the horizon. So as we know, this was a very, very significant time of year to all of the ancient cultures who built monuments to mark the rising of Sirius. And this was done for agricultural reasons, but also because they knew that this time of year we have access to the cosmos, we have access to the wisdom of the star tribes. You know, for the Egyptians in particular, Sirius was Isis, the great mother goddess. So this can be a time of great harvest, of bounty, of fertility. And this is all going on in your 5th house where Mercury is still retrograde. So this can be a time where downloads are coming in and you just need to sit and rest and integrate them and know that they will be birthed into the world at the most appropriate time, you know, perhaps later on in the year as we start to kind of move into September and the harvest period. So we're going to finish the month in this Lionsgate dark moon energy. The final eclipse of the season is going to be in Leo in your 5th house, which I will talk more about in the upcoming video. But again, you know, we're working with clearing those fears around receiving love, abundance, prosperity. This eclipse is also going to be square to Jupiter. So we have a huge theme this month for you, Aries, around intimacy and resources. So how can you, as a soul on an evolutionary journey, Aries, work with this frequency? How can you open yourself up to receive what you deserve on every level? How can you rework the framework, the foundations of your life so that you can solidly build your dreams so that they are financially viable in the real world? How can you move into deeper heart-centered connection with those souls that are drawn to you? Perhaps some old connections will need to fall away before the new ones can come in. How, Aries, can you move deeper into healing the wounds and the pain of the past? How can you be the agent of transformation in your genetic lineage? These are all questions that you can ask yourself. How can you rework your visions and offerings so that they are more in alignment with your true authentic self and the service that you wish to offer the world? So it's a huge, potent month for you, and I've decided this month to use the Isis Oracle again because these have a very Syrian vibration. There's lots of cards in here that talk about Sirius, so I thought this again would be the perfect deck for this reading this month. And I really love the card that you have: Spirit of Isis, Triumph of the Goddess, and her determined gaze, you know, how she stood there holding her crook. You know, she's almost got her warrior helmet on there. And that card to me is the perfect depiction of you, Aries. Even with your ruling planet retrograde, you are the warrior. You are unstoppable. So even though things may seem frustrating, things may need to be reworked, things perhaps aren't unfolding exactly as you plan, there are changes, there are obstacles, still you will triumph. You will emerge the other side of this period, Aries, with clearer insight, with clearer focus, with an even stronger platform to build your new life upon. So I hope that that has served you. Thank you so much for listening to me, and if you would like to connect with me further, the links will be below this video. Have a beautiful, transformative lunar cycle.